Today we're going to look at campaigns. We're going to take a tour through the various GW Skirmish games to see some of the approaches they've taken. I'm hoping this will be a start of a series, so this video will give a relatively high level overview. The broad idea with a campaign is you get to follow your team as they grow, develop, and sometimes fall. This is typically done as a group with multiple players competing to see who will end up king of the hill. There are definitely pros and cons to campaigns. It's a great feeling watching your team grow, but it can really suck when you take a bunch of hits and end up facing a team that's been a lot luckier. It can sometimes be tricky keeping a group of players invested over multiple weeks, especially those players falling behind. Different games have different approaches in trying to balance this, with mixed results. Games Workshop have been supporting the open matched narrative trilogy for a while now, so almost all of their games have at least some form of campaign option. While campaigns can be done in any of the three, typically they fall into the narrative category. So let's have a look and see some of the approaches GW have taken. At the most basic, we have the Aeronautica campaign. If a pilot survives 2 games, they become an ace and get a reroll once per game. If they survive 6 games, they get a second reroll. They also keep track of kills. After 5 kills, they get an ace ability, and after 10 kills, they get a second ace ability, so your pilots are slowly getting better. If they're shot down though, only on a 6 do they manage to get lucky and return to the front. 1 through 5 means the ace is dead and you lose everything. Any aircraft destroyed is replaced, so you don't really have to worry about being under strength. This is actually a great way of running a campaign. Fighters that survive get rerolls, which is great to have but doesn't massively impact the game. Death is real, but you're only losing rerolls. We have the key elements here of progression and loss. You play games and your pilots get better. They get shot down and they lose those benefits. It's a nice and simple system that definitely is improved if you name your pilots. Titanicus is similar, with the campaign rules in the Titan Death book. Crews gain experience for surviving games, which gets them rerolls. The reinforcement system is a little bit more detailed though, with each player using a pool of points after each battle to reinforce their roster. A bigger roster means more options to make your battle group out of. A small roster might mean you struggle to make enough points for a battle. As an added twist, any damage done to a Titan during a battle sticks around, and you have to spend resources to repair them. So you can have Titans going into battle with some damage at the start of a game. It also means you can end up salvaging weapons from one of your destroyed Titans to add them to another Titan. Getting payback for a fallen Titan with one of their own guns does sound pretty epic. With this version, we're getting a little bit more into the meat of a campaign system. Since you have points, you get to play around with your battle group and take different options. If you get badly mauled in a battle, you could end up fielding an understrength battle group, which could be rough. Multiple wins, though, aren't going to put you into a massive advantage. You'll be able to tailor your Titans for your enemy, but you won't be able to overwhelm them with twice as many Titans as normal. Warhammer Quest, currently Curse City, has your heroes entering into battles and coming out with loot and experience. Surviving a mission gets the heroes more experience, and if they survive 3 missions, they gain a level. Each level opens up more abilities depending on their trait. In each adventure, they'll gain currency, Realmstone, which they can use on fancier gear and weapons. As they get better, they face bigger and badder enemies. It's really just an escalating power thing, but it does make it feel like you're slowly growing in power before facing the big bad. If a character dies during a quest, you roll a d12 to see if they recover. They only die on a 1, and if they have an ailment, then it'll be a 2. So death is possible, but should be pretty rare. Even if a hero dies, you have plenty more to choose from, so hopefully you've been leveling up a few. Of minor note for myself in this channel, the box comes with little plastic bags for each hero. As you play, you add all the upgrade tokens and cards into the bag, so when you're ready to play next, you have everything at your hands. This is a great way of keeping track of a campaign and could easily be adapted for other games. This does seem like a good time to talk about death in campaigns. Unlike with the previous 2 games, the heroes get a lot more than just rerolls. From a feel-good factor, you want to give things to players rather than take them away. The net effect might be similar, especially in a campaign where giving one player something small and another something big is similar to taking something away from the first player. But taking it away just feels bad. As such, death is pretty contentious. But without the risk of death, you do lose something. Where do you put it though? Cursed City is relatively low risk. My experience with the game is having a hero go down is rare enough, and if they do, you still need to roll a 1 on a d12 for them to die. Would it be more enjoyable if the risk was higher? Maybe. It would certainly ratchet up the tension. Making it to the last fight with only 4 out of the total 8 remaining would be pretty epic. In Bloodbowl, campaigns are seasons or leagues, and you as coach earn gold during games and spend it on new players and team upgrades. Meanwhile, on the pitch, the players are earning star player points, which they can spend on upgrading their stats or skills. In a game of Bloodbowl, players hit the ground all the time. Normally that means being stunned, but if they're a casualty, then there's a 1 in 8 chance that they'll die. Developing your team is one of the key parts of a league in Bloodbowl, with coaches dreaming of the perfect combination of players and skills to make their perfect team. Leagues tend to be a tight number of fixed games, so while you can end up with a big difference in power, it's all part of the league, and soon enough there'll be a new league with everything reset. Of particular note in Bloodbowl, different teams have different approaches to the game. Some of the finesse teams can dominate a league, scoring a touchdown in a single turn, but the bash teams are more interested in kicking the shit out of the other team rather than actually scoring. Because of this, some leagues can end up decided when a bash team badly mauls another team, especially when there is some excessive fouling. Killteam's campaign is called the Spec Ops campaign. In it, operatives will gain experience from taking out enemy operatives if they complete mission objectives or gain victory points, and if they complete attack ops. Each operative focuses on a specific specialism: combat, staunch, marksman, or scout, with each specialism having 6 potential benefits. If an operative is incapacitated during a battle, they have to roll a casualty test, with a 2+ being fine and a 1 meaning they get a random battle scar, with a roll of 1 being death. Each battle scar they already have gives a -1 to roll, making it more likely to die as they accumulate them. In kill team campaigns, you also keep track of the overall kill team, which has a stock of equipment and strategic assets. To improve and progress these, you use requisition points, which can be used to add additional operatives to your team or other benefits. You start with 4 of these and get 1 each game. You can also get more requisition points and additional abilities by completing Spec Ops, which are missions you work on across multiple battles. In Warcry, you start with your 1000 point list, limited to just your leader as a hero with no monsters, allies, or trolls. The current season is all about exploring the Gnarlwood. You start with a base camp somewhere on the outskirts of the forest. After each battle, your warband gains glory, which can be spent on new fighters or upgrades. Each of your fighters that survive gets to roll for renown, which they will gain on a 6. Each renown gives them a free reaction each game. In the earlier edition, it was a reroll, showing the similarity to the other games. Each of your fighters who went down during the battle get to roll on the casualty table. Again, this is a d6-6, so you're rolling 2d6 in order and checking results. 11, 12, and 13 are all killed, so that's a 1 in 6 roll for the first one, and then a 3 in 6 roll for the 1, 2, 3. So basically, again, you're looking at a 1 in 12 chance of death. The other results have lots of injuries, which reduce stats and make the fighter weaker until they can eventually recover. Each warband can go on a quest, which are similar to the Kill Team Spec Ops, and are objectives to complete over several battles. Each quest opens up rewards, maybe extra magic items, heroic traits, or the ability to recruit new fighters like trolls, heroes, or even a monster. At the end of each battle, you get to send your fighters out to explore the Gnarlwood to see what they can find. Sometimes they'll come back with treasure, sometimes they'll get eaten by monsters. On occasion, they'll find a new place where you can camp deeper in. This will cost some glory, but will bring benefits, and importantly, can increase the amount of points your warband can use, up to a max of an extra 200 points. The biggest innovation that Warcry has is the way players run their own campaigns solo. You still play against other players, but you don't need to play against the same pool of opponents or have to get games finished in a certain time frame. Instead, you play whenever you want, tracking the benefits and penalties your warband receives after each fight. This can result in power differences between warbands, but you still get to level your warband win or lose, so it's always worth playing. The crunchiest version of campaign rules are from Necromunda. With Necromunda, you have several options on how you run your campaigns. Mostly these focus on the things you're fighting over. The standard campaign from the core rulebook is the Dominion campaign, where you control territories. Book of Judgment has rackets instead. The Uprising campaign deals with cults having an insurrection. The Outlander campaign lets you build a base. The Ash Waste campaign is set outside the Hive and it's all about controlling trade routes, while the most recent campaign is Cinderak Burning, focuses on battles between noble houses. All these campaigns have lots of knobs and dials that an arbiter running the campaign can adjust to get the right feel. Some rules remain constant throughout all of them. You hire and equip your gang with credits, you get more credits by fighting battles, getting more if you win. During those battles, your gang members will gain experience, which will let them get better, but they can also get injured, captured, or killed. To die, a ganger needs to go out of action. Then roll a 6 on the first d6 of the lasting injury roll, and even then, a 1 to 5 on the second d6 will let a doc save the ganger, but often it's cheaper just to let the ganger die. So again, you're looking at a d6 6 roll, and for your most important fighters, you're going to need to roll a 6 and a 6 before they're dead. Games can get pretty wild in Necromunda, and unbalanced games are just part of the chaos that is a normal day in the Underhive. One notable aspect from Necromunda are the options to try and make unbalanced games a little fairer. The most basic version of this is getting extra bonus tactic cards, but there are also more powerful underdog tactics and options like adding free bounty hunters and hive scum. Mordheim is essentially the fantasy version of Necromunda. You build your warband by spending gold, starting with your leader and up to 5 more heroes, and finally a bunch of henchmen. As an example, a witch hunter warband will have a witch hunter captain as leader, up to 3 witch hunters, maybe 1 warrior priest, then zealots, flagellants, and warhounds round the team out. The Skaven warband, in contrast, will have an assassin adept as his leader, maybe an Eshin sorcerer, up to 2 black Skaven, up to 2 night runners, and maybe a single rat ogre, and then the rest of the warband will be made up of verminkin and giant rats. As with Necromunda, after hiring your warband, you need to gear them out with weapons, armor, and equipment. So you have a lot of control over what you have, and do get to craft the warband you like. To work out relative strength of warbands, you look at the total experience they have. Some fighters, like the Rat Ogre, already have a chunk of experience baked into them. If you're facing off against a warband with more experience, then you are considered to be the underdog. You do not get anything to help you out in that battle, but along with the normal experience your fighters would get for surviving the battle, they also get an experience boost. So even if you do take a paddling, you will get something out of it. That said, the injury table is packed with bad things. Like Warcry, you're rolling on the D66 table to work out the results. For Warcry, 11 to 13 is dead, with Mordheim tipping this slightly from 11 to 15. Of more note are the amount of lasting injuries. Warcry has 14 to 23, but Mordheim has 16 to 36. Injuries in Mordheim are also permanent, while in Warcry there's a 50% chance to recover for the end of each battle. Okay, let's do a bit of a recap. All the campaigns reward you for playing, with a bonus from the basic Aeronautica to the attributes and skills of the more detailed games. Penalties such as death or the occasional mauling aren't as prevalent. They're always there, but apart from Aeronautica, you're pretty unlikely to have a fighter straight up die on you. This is kind of interesting, as it reflects the more modern game design, where you want to positively reinforce playing. We've all had campaigns where someone got horribly unlucky and stopped playing soon after. That's definitely something you want to avoid, but at the same time, the risk of tragedy makes success all the sweeter. I have to admit, I was quite surprised to see Mordheim wasn't as lethal as I expected. Death is slightly more likely than with Warcry, and injuries are more impactful, but it's not really that much of a difference, especially when you consider you can boost stats in Mordheim to clear out injuries. My assumption was Mordheim held to a more brutal design, and that was part of its charm, but I don't think that's the case now. It's clearly a game that people love, but maybe it's more about the theme of the game than the actual mechanics. Progression seems to be an important element, with players looking forward to being able to try out their dream team as they progress along the campaign. This might be why the Killteam campaign isn't particularly popular, at least from my limited experience, as your starting list will be the same as your end of campaign list, give or take some special abilities and special equipment. On the flip side of progression though is game balance. It definitely feels bad when you end up totally outmatched in a game and there's no chance to win, especially when you're only able to get one game in that week. The various systems have different options to try address this, whether it's something small like an extra wild dice from Warcry, to the more advanced options like a Necromunda with extra fighters and gear. At the absolute basic, it does seem important that you get something out of a game when you're the underdog, like the bonus experience in Mordheim. Some games just can't be won, but at the end of it, it's nice to feel like you achieved something. One very important lesson we can take comes from the Necromunda community. Necromunda is a wonderful game, but is prone to mistakes, and the community is used to stepping in and resolving those issues with house rules. Don't be afraid to make changes and tweak things for your own campaign group. Personally, I'm eager to try a Mordheim themed campaign using Warcry rules. The recent Underworld's Witch Hunters warband is too good not to pick up, and I'd like to adapt the solo campaign style of Warcry into a campaign with one player developing a single warband, while the second player goes through a variety of warbands with some sort of chain weaving it all together. Thanks for making it all the way to the end. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Each week I put up a new video talking about one of Games Workshop's specialist games. The goal is always to try and make the best possible two-player experience. If this is something you'd find interesting, please subscribe to the channel and comment to let me know what you'd like to see in future.